I brought my husband's dad a $2,500 wheelchair after his surgery. At dinner, he looked me dead in the face and said, "Return it. I'd rather crawl than owe a whore." Everyone laughed, even my husband. I cleared the plates, took the chair back, and left without a word. Next morning, their security cameras caught something they'll never be able to explain. When I married into his family, I knew I didn't belong. Not in the "she's different but we love her" way. In the "we tolerate her because she's useful" way. I was the woman who fixed things, organized things, paid for things. And for a while, I thought that was love. My husband, Caleb, is the oldest of two boys. His parents are the type who believe women should keep quiet, serve dinner, and say thank you for being allowed at the table. I didn't come from that. I was raised to work hard, speak up, and not take scraps from anyone. But I made compromises. For Caleb, for peace. His dad, Victor, never liked me. He thought I was too direct. He once told Caleb, "You didn't marry a wife, you hired a manager." I heard it through the door once. Caleb said nothing. Victor was the kind of man who made people nervous without raising his voice. He didn't need to yell. He'd just stare and people would fold. When he had his hip surgery, no one stepped up to help. Not his wife, not his youngest son, not even Caleb. Everyone made excuses. They said they were busy, they had work, the house was too far. So I did it. I arranged the post-op nurse visits. I managed his medication schedule. I stocked their fridge. I called insurance to make sure they covered his rehab. I did all of it. Quietly. I didn't ask for thanks. I just hoped they'd see me as someone they could count on. The wheelchair was the last piece. His doctor said he needed one with proper support, something that would reduce pressure on his lower spine and help his posture. The standard chair the hospital gave him wasn't enough. Insurance only covered the basics. So I researched. I called manufacturers. I went to showrooms. I found one that was lightweight, electric-assisted, with memory foam cushions. It was $2,482 after taxes. I paid in full with my own savings. That was money I had been quietly putting away for IVF. Caleb didn't even know I had started looking into it. I just wanted to be ready in case. That night, I brought it over. We were having dinner at their house, like we did once a month. I wheeled it in through the front door while they were still setting the table. His mom looked confused. Caleb just said, "Is that the one you picked?" I said yes. I told him it was a gift. I said, "This should help him move around the house easier." Victor stared at it for maybe 5 full seconds, then looked at me like I'd handed him a dead animal. "Return it," he said. "I'd rather crawl than owe a whore." He said it slow, clear, meant for everyone to hear. I went still. I waited for someone to speak. I waited for Caleb to say something. Anything. He smirked, looked down at his plate. His mom giggled under her breath. His brother said, "Damn, Dad." But no one told him to stop. No one said it was wrong. I felt my face burn, but I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just stood up, went to the kitchen, and started clearing the plates, one by one, like nothing happened. Caleb didn't look at me. He kept eating. When I was done, I rolled the wheelchair back outside, folded it up, and put it in my trunk. I closed the door. I didn't say goodbye. I drove away. I didn't go home. I booked a hotel 2 towns over and checked in for the night. I laid on the bed fully dressed and stared at the ceiling until morning. By the time the sun came up, I was done hoping they'd ever respect me. I remembered something Victor once said about me. "She acts like she's better than us because she has a degree." I don't. I have 2 jobs. I have debt. But I handled all of Caleb's bills. I did our taxes. I tracked every insurance claim. He didn't know the passwords to his own accounts. He always said, "You're good at that stuff." That morning, I checked every shared account. I moved my direct deposits to a new bank. I drained the joint savings. It was mine. I had put in 91% of it over the years. I had the statements to prove it. Then I checked the Ring app on my phone. I still had guest access to Victor's house cameras. I used it during his recovery to monitor deliveries and nurse visits. They forgot to revoke it. I watched live as Caleb stood on their porch in the same clothes from the night before. He looked annoyed, not worried. His mom opened the door and gave him a coffee. They talked for a few minutes. He said I was probably just sulking. She said, "She's always been high-strung." Then Victor yelled from inside, "Good riddance." I watched it all, quietly, no reaction. Then I opened the safe in our bedroom closet. Victor had given me access 2 years ago when his bookkeeping got messy. I handled his vendor receipts and taxes for 2 years, for free. He said I was organized. What he meant was, "You'll do the dirty work." Inside the safe were all the old records he never wanted anyone to see. Handwritten invoices. Undeclared income. Sketchy write-offs. I had scanned most of them back when I was helping. I still had them on a USB drive, so I made a fresh set of copies. I didn't send them yet. I just prepared. That afternoon, I filed for divorce. When I served Caleb the papers, he looked genuinely confused. "You're serious? Over a chair?" I didn't answer. The lawyer I hired was sharp. She helped me secure a temporary freeze on the mortgage account, so he couldn't refinance without my consent. I had paid the down payment with inheritance money from my grandfather. I never added Caleb's name to the title. He never noticed. I moved out 2 days later. I didn't scream. I didn't post anything online. I didn't trash him publicly. I just disappeared from their lives. Then last week, I got a phone call. It was Caleb. His voice was shaky. Their house had been broken into. Nothing was stolen. No signs of forced entry. But the wheelchair I had taken? It was in their living room. Muddy. Scratched. Facing Victor's recliner. The house alarm didn't go off. The ring footage showed movement near the back patio. A shadow. Someone moving carefully. Quietly. Like they knew the layout. The timing. The blind spots. I didn't say much on the phone. Just asked, "Everyone okay?" He said yes. What I didn't say, that I had been watching their footage. That I knew the alarm code. That I knew which windows didn't latch. I didn't break anything. I didn't even go inside. I just returned a gift. And that was only the start. After that call, I didn't hear from Caleb for a week. I figured he'd either come storming back or go silent. He did both. I watched him spiral from a distance. He changed the passwords on our streaming accounts. Canceled my Spotify login. Little things. Then he showed up at my job. He waited in the parking lot until my shift ended. I saw him standing by my car. Arms crossed. Trying to look angry. I kept walking past him. He said, "So you're just gonna keep playing games?" I didn't answer. He followed me as I walked. He humiliated his family. Said his dad was traumatized and paranoid now. Said his mom had trouble sleeping. That his brother thought someone had hexed the house. I stopped and looked at him. "You let your dad call me a whore in front of everyone," I said. "And you laughed." He didn't say anything after that. Just stood there. I got in my car and drove off. That night, I got a call from Caleb's younger brother, Troy. He was drunk. Slurring. Said he always liked me better. Said I should have married someone with a spine. Then he told me Caleb had moved back in with their parents. The house was tense, he said. Victor kept a bat by the door. They covered the front camera with duct tape. They unplugged the ring system. His mom burned sage. They thought someone was coming for them. I didn't say anything. I just let him ramble. A week later, the IRS letter arrived. Not for me. For them. I didn't send the tax documents directly. I gave them to someone else, an anonymous tip line. I knew how to do it in a way that couldn't be traced. I had taken screenshots. Recorded my own work emails with Victor. Saved copies of payments that didn't match bank records. Nothing fake. Just the truth. I didn't expect the audit to hit that fast, but it did. Victor tried to blame his bookkeeper, me. Said I must have messed things up. But I had signed nothing. I had access, but not control. He never filed anything through me. I just organized his mess. Now he was getting letters, emails, calls. A man who spent decades cheating the system suddenly under a microscope. And he was panicking. He called Caleb, told him to get me to fix it. Caleb texted me. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. He sent another. "You're destroying lives over a joke." I sent one back. "You destroyed a marriage over silence." Then I blocked him. 3 days later, someone tried to break into my new apartment. They didn't get in. The door was reinforced, but the attempt was messy, scratch lock, muddy prints. Someone tried to force the latch with a screwdriver. I had cameras of my own. New ones. Better ones. The man in the footage wore gloves and a hoodie. Couldn't see his face, but I recognized his walk. I recognized the way he kicked at the welcome mat. Caleb always did that. A little nervous habit. A flick of the toe before stepping inside. Always annoyed me. I didn't call the police. I made another backup of the footage. I sent it to my lawyer, just in case. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Troy. He answered right away. Sounded surprised. I asked if Caleb had been drinking lately. If he'd been angry. Troy said yes. Said he'd been weird. Said he disappeared some nights and came back sweaty, paranoid. He asked if I was okay. I didn't answer. That night, I dropped another package at their house. No note. Just a small box. Inside, the warranty paperwork for the wheelchair. A printed list of itemized costs. And a photo. A grainy still frame from their own ring footage. The night the chair came back. Victor called me the next morning. He didn't yell. He didn't insult me. He just said, "What do you want?" I didn't answer. Because it wasn't about what I wanted anymore. It was about what they were starting to fear. After Victor's call, things went quiet. Too quiet. No texts. No emails. No random show-ups. No surprises at work. I stopped getting alerts from their house cameras. I figured they finally realized they were outmatched, but I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Not typed. Handwritten, sloppy, angry. It wasn't from Victor. Or Caleb. It was from Caleb's mother. She told me I was tearing apart a family. That her husband was getting sicker from the stress. That the IRS was now asking about a second business Victor had kept hidden. Something she didn't even know about. She wrote that I was cold, unforgiving, vindictive. But then at the bottom, in messy letters, she begged. She asked me to stop. She said Victor had chest pains the night before. That the doctors warned him to stay calm. She didn't say sorry. Not once. Not for the insult. Not for laughing. Not for raising a son who stood by and watched. She just begged for quiet. And that told me everything I needed to know. They were unraveling. And Caleb, he was nowhere to be seen. Until one morning, I got an alert from my old iCloud account. One I hadn't touched in over a year. I'd forgotten it was still connected to the shared MacBook back at our house. He hadn't wiped it, and there it was. A PDF file titled Prenup Options. March Draft. I opened it. It was a scanned document. Not ours. His brother's. Troy and his girlfriend. Turns out, Caleb had helped Troy draft up a prenup with a lawyer friend. Something to protect the family assets. Except, I found something buried deep in the draft's reference notes. A mention of a family inheritance trust that Victor had set up years ago. It was never listed in taxes. Never discussed openly, but it existed. And it was under Victor's name, but Caleb and Troy were beneficiaries. That's when it hit me. This was never about the wheelchair. Or the joke. Or even the silence. It was about protecting what they thought was theirs. That's why they panicked when the IRS started sniffing around. Because if the audit found that trust, if the wrong number showed up, they'd all be pulled in. And they knew I had copies. Spreadsheets. Years of files. Even handwritten ledgers from Victor's garage. I had scanned them all. Some with his signature. Some with dates and cash amounts that never matched the books. I hadn't sent those yet. I was saving them. I wanted to see who would try to clean up the mess first. 3 days later, someone did. A lawyer contacted my attorney. She asked if we'd be open to private resolution. No court. No IRS. Just a clean agreement and a confidentiality clause. She didn't say where she was from. But she referenced the trust. Said it was accidentally exposed. They were offering money. Not a lot. Enough to try and make me walk away. I didn't reply. Instead, I made a copy of everything I had. I stored it on 2 hard drives. One I gave to my lawyer. The other I mailed to someone they never saw coming. Troy's fiancée. She and I had only met twice. But she seemed smart. Sharp. The kind of woman who would read every line of a contract before signing anything. I mailed it with no note. Just a thumb drive labeled, "Ask before you sign." 2 days after she got it, Troy texted me. "Why would you do that?" I didn't reply, but I knew she'd seen it, and I knew she'd ask questions. And I knew that trust, the one they'd all kept quiet, was about to become the one thing they couldn't hide anymore. Troy's text didn't rattle me. I knew it was coming. But it was what he didn't say that told me everything. He didn't ask if it was true. He didn't ask what I sent. He already knew. Or she had already shown him. That was enough. A few days later, Caleb's mom called again. I didn't pick up. Then came the voicemails. One was angry. The next one was shaky. Her voice trembling. In that second message, she said they were meeting with a second lawyer. Something about restructuring the trust. Something about Troy's fiancé threatening to walk if she wasn't given full transparency. Then she said something strange. She said, "Is not just going to affect the boys. This affects the grandkids." That stopped me. I hadn't told anyone we'd been trying. Not even my own parents. IVF wasn't a sure thing. I was just gathering information, saving slowly, taking blood tests quietly. Caleb knew nothing. But she did. Somehow, she knew. That night I dug through my email backups and found it. An appointment reminder from a fertility clinic. Dated months ago. Sent to my shared Gmail. The one Caleb still had access to before I left. He must have seen it. Maybe before the dinner. Maybe after. That's when the timeline shifted for me. What if the joke at dinner wasn't just a moment of cruelty? What if it was a message? What if they knew I was planning something for myself? Something separate. Something with or without Caleb, and they wanted to humiliate me first? What if calling me a whore wasn't just a sick joke? What if it was about control? I thought about that for days. I couldn't sleep. I started waking up at 3 a.m., heart racing, checking locks that were already locked. Then something else happened. One morning, I got a calendar invite on my phone. From Caleb. Just a Google event titled Discussion. 15 minutes. I almost declined it, but I didn't. I showed up. Neutral ground. A diner halfway between my place and the old neighborhood. I wore black. No makeup. He was already there when I walked in, pale thinner. He didn't look like someone who wanted to win. He looked like someone who had already lost and was hoping to keep a piece of the wreckage. We didn't hug. We didn't shake hands. He didn't even say sorry. He just said, "They're scared of you." I said, "They should be." Then he said something I didn't expect. He said, "They're going to blame me. Not Dad, me." I didn't answer. I let him talk. He said his mom wanted him to convince me to sign something. That she wanted it done before the IRS audit expanded. That Victor had started talking about cutting Caleb out to protect the trust. Then Caleb said, "I made a mistake." I looked at him. He didn't mean the joke. He didn't mean the laughter. He meant me. He meant that I was the mistake. That he thought I'd be easy to silence. That I'd fold. That I'd stay. And now I was the one thing they couldn't predict. I was quiet, but not gone. I left that diner without saying another word. On the way home, I got a message from Troy's fiancée. It was a single sentence. "Thank you for telling me the truth before I married into this mess." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The IRS audit went wide. What started with a few years of missed fillings turned into 2 decades of hidden income, off-the-books contracts, and shell payments. Victor's business wasn't just shady. It was illegal. He thought it would stop at a fine. Maybe a payment plan. Maybe a slap on the wrist if he blamed a disgruntled ex-bookkeeper. But they kept digging. The trust showed up. They tried to deny it. But it was real, active, and underreported. The audit connected it to properties, vehicles, and money moved in and out over the years with no tax trail. Troy's fiancée walked. Quietly. Moved her things out overnight. Then she sent a copy of the prenup to the audit attorney handling the case. She highlighted the section Caleb had drafted, where he referenced family assets not publicly disclosed. It wasn't just about hiding money anymore. It was now about intent, planning fraud. I didn't send any of that. She did. On her own. And that mattered. The case turned criminal. Victor was indicted first. Then Caleb. Not for what I sent, but for what they tried to erase after they knew I had it. Backdated documents. Destroyed receipts. Access logs from their family accountant software that showed someone logging in to adjust old entries weeks after I left. They weren't careful. They never expected the world to look at them too closely. They were used to getting away with it. Victor took a deal. Pleaded out to avoid trial. He'll never serve time. He's too old, too frail now. But they seized the trust. Froze the accounts. Liquidated assets. The house? Gone. Vehicles? Gone. The business? Shut down. He lives in a 1-bedroom apartment now. Walk up. No elevator. No chair. Caleb wasn't as lucky. His deal came with probation and a felony record. Credit ruined. Career over. I heard he tried working at a warehouse last month. Couldn't pass the background check. He emailed me once. Said, "I never thought you'd go this far." I didn't respond, because I didn't go that far. They did. His mother had a breakdown during the second year of proceedings. Not medical. Just emotional. The kind that turns people small. She stopped talking to her friends. Moved in with her sister 3 states away. I haven't heard anything since. Troy went quiet. No social media. No calls. I assume he's waiting for it all to blow over. Maybe he thinks he'll rebuild someday, but people remember. Their name is poison now. It follows them. As for me, I didn't get away clean. I lost time. Years of it. I lost money. Peace. Nights of sleep I'll never get back. I lost a version of myself I'll never fully return to. The woman who wanted to fix everything. Who wanted to be loved by people who saw her as nothing more than an outsider with a checkbook. That part of me died the moment he laughed, but I also gained something. Silence. No more cameras. No more alerts. No more watching my back. I moved. Got a new job. Nothing flashy, but peaceful. I see my own family again. I talk to people who ask how I'm doing and mean it. And the wheelchair? I donated it to a rehab center 2 towns over. I didn't put my name on it, just left it at the front desk with a receipt and a note. Give this to someone who'd rather crawl than owe the wrong person.